early on, people thought that Agile was about Scrum or delivery teams, and there used to be like this fight between Scrum and XP and some of the different technologies at the delivery team level. I think most of the clients we're going into today, they're understanding the problem is a larger scale problem than that, and that you see that reflected in like the rates people are charging for Scrum masters and delivery team coaches. People are getting $100 an hour coaches or $80 an hour for a Scrum master. There's just the rates are really down there. It's not as valued as it was. So I think that people are realizing it's more of an end-to-end problem. And there's a lot of people that are writing out there. SAFe has helped create some of that awareness. Projects to Products by Mick Kirsten has created some of that awareness. You're seeing more and more people understanding, it's a value stream business process flow, and the org has to be aligned with it, sort of challenge to make Agile work and get in touch with the customers. I think the second thing that has significantly changed is the technologies we're working with are very different. The moving to the cloud and the tighter integration of infrastructure and deployment to product development has made all of that more of a first-class citizen. You can't go solve the Agile stuff without addressing the cloud and the infrastructure. There's people involved in the conversation that weren't 10 years ago. We had clients that were doing very advanced things, like our early retail client was doing very advanced things in this area, but just the ubiquity of Amazon Web Services and some of those things have made it a different class of problem than it was. And the third thing that's changed is just the client demands continue to accelerate. Clients are now expecting more and more and more organizations to be able to put software in the cloud and update it more frequently. And so there's putting more pressure on bigger parts of the organization than it was before. Before, we might have been in a specialty area, or we might have been focused on new product development, but now it's everything. It's more broadly relevant across the organization, to the point that it's typically the demand is not even coming from within IT. The demand is coming from the chief operating officer or the marketing people or the product people to be able to be more adaptive. So I think those three moves, we saw them 10 years ago, but now they're pretty ubiquitous in the marketplace. Our stakeholders that we're moving outside of IT, our executive and management stakeholders, are less informed and less trusting, and there's more resistance in some of those areas than we saw when we were just going and doing delivery teams. Delivery teams were excited to do small work, and the product team down were excited to do smaller, faster work. You've got a lot more, the lack of trust and the lack of shared understanding of the organization outside of technology is bigger, and the expectations are higher. So we're having to move different stakeholders that don't understand technology at all and couldn't care less about Scrum. Our story resonates with them because we're not talking about Scrum or technology. We're talking about organizational impediments, and we're talking about dependencies. We're talking about a broader solving the problem from portfolio down, or aligning your organization with your customer. And so people have fired their shots and all these other things that didn't get the result they wanted. I think we're the only ones out there really telling the story about what they actually have to do to get there. So they've tried a lot of other things, but our story resonates actually as much or more with the business side and with the other parts of the organization as it does within technology. Our anti-SAFe story, or anti-Scrum story, not really anti, but why it fails and what to do about it. The what to do about it resonates with the business people. So they're seeing us have a plausible answer that nobody else is talking about in the marketplace. It's interesting, sometimes the word Agile, they'll go, oh, I thought you were going to come try to sell me Scrum again. I thought you were going to come and try to sell me some test-driven development. You're actually talking about an operating model and changing my business model to connect it together and building. So they're not, the Agile word sometimes, I have two telecom companies in Europe that after about 15 minutes talking to them, they expressed relief. Oh, You're not talking about that Scrum stuff here. You're talking about actually getting my organization to work right. I go, yeah, that's right. Deeply understanding the challenges that these business partners are facing. And it's not that they can't do Agile, it's that they can't make promises to their customers that they can keep. It's interesting because this is not new to our story. We've been talking about predictability and quality and throughput, faster ROI for a long time, but it resonates with the audience of these executives in a different way. So they're talking about, yeah, they've no interest in any of the practices or techniques behind it. But our story that we've been telling from the beginning makes sense to them. How we get there and how we get them to understand how they play as you get into the point of view, the viewpoint, that they might have to change their behavior significantly to be successful. There's a lot of craft in that. So I do my management training, my leadership training, where we talk about it's the system. And here's how you participate in the system to make it not be able to achieve those goals. Like we just connect, but again, it's that walking that ladder of inference to a different perspective and showing them what might be possible and getting a chance to prove it with a pilot. I'm just walking the left side of that loop with them. But what they care about and what they currently believe and how they see the world is different than what the technology leaders were building from. And so you have to frame the influence conversation differently. And what's interesting to me, the failure mode is you can't just walk in and just keep telling them that, the competence mode and walking and saying, well, if you just did Agile, it would be better. If you just did SAFe, it would be better. The people they just don't believe it because they've been burned by that for a decade now. So we have to kind of know that part of their empathy is the burden of carrying the low trust, the challenges between what they've been asking for and what they've been getting for the last decade. So we kind of have to say, yeah, IT hasn't been trustworthy. That's why you don't trust them. Here's what we're going to do to make a difference. What that raises sometimes is the challenge with we can't walk in and tell people they're not good at their job. So sometimes it creates challenges with the IT side of the organization, right? Because they're not doing what they need to do. But the business isn't either. If we can get the balance of what worked 10 years ago won't work today, and here's how you need to shift to support it on both sides, that's like the turning the curve there is what we're trying to do. So we talk about the system is the thing, leadership's responsible for the system. Here's what it looks like when it's working well. Here's how you measure it and manage it. Here's the role that you play as leaders in getting what you want. It empowers them, brings them along, and gets them to participate because they don't feel like they're just victims to the system anymore. They get to become participants in the overall system. It's interesting. I don't want to retread the things I just talked about, but they don't know how to make the change. The change they've invested in for the last 10 years don't solve anything for them. There's the tension between the orderers and the order takers, the conflict in organizations is just huge in most places. In the banks that we're dealing with, and inside of a company that does software for municipalities, and inside a company that does software for water systems. It's another municipality sort of play, but we've got like this tension between the business side and the technology side that it just comes up again and again and again. And technology is asking for more and more money, but they haven't produced results in the past. Costs are going up, and they don't have a plan to get out of it necessarily. It's the trust challenges between the executives.